Welcome everyone to another tutorial from Code Slice. So in this tutorial we'll be looking at how to make rounded buttons. So there's three ways how to do this. I don't think there's any other way, but if there is any other way, please let me know in the comment section. But from my understanding, there's only three ways to do this. So let's go on and do this. Alright, so as you can see on the screen, I've already set up the code. It's a simple setup. We have a screen and there's nothing on the screen. So let's go on and run this. Okay, as you can see, it's just a blank screen. Alright, yeah, so it's just a blank screen. We haven't really created anything. Yes, so the very first way to create a rounded button, it's actually through using images. So through using images, but before we just create a button, we can just create a layout for ourselves. In this case, we're going to be using box layout, orientation. For orientation, we can use vertical. Okay, and also let's put a background color. So canvas before, color, RGBA, rectangle, size, self.size, pause, self.pause. Okay, yeah, so just to show everyone what we did, so we just created a background for our screen. It's going to be like a yellow background of sorts. All right, so let's go on now and create our very first rounded button. So the very first one, you can use it through using images. So which means you need to have like round button images. So those you can download or create for your own self using softwares like Photoshop or whatever other softwares there are. So in my case, I've already, let me just open here. I've already, yeah, downloaded the images. Yeah, so as you can see here, so I have a folder with images, and then in those images I have downloaded these buttons. Yeah, I've placed these buttons, and in this case we have a green button. So when it comes to using the buttons, you will need two buttons. So you will need a button for when the button hasn't been clicked, you know, like your normal button or your button up. Okay, and then you also need to have another button when it's clicked, you know how the button will look like when it's clicked. Yeah, so just to open the images so that you can see how they look like. Yeah, so it's just a PNG images. You can see it's like this. Yeah, yeah, and it's like this. So this is how the button is going to look like when it's clicked. So you need to have these images. All right, so how you get those images, it's up to you. You can download them or you can make them using Photoshop or any other means. Okay, so now let's go on and use these images. So we're gonna create a button. So button, yeah, so the first way, maybe just to place it here, so creating rounded button with images, or rather using images. Okay, so we have a button and then we give it a text. Text, maybe the text can be welcome. Okay, so let's also give the button maybe a size hint. How about we use 0.3, 0.2. Then also let's position the button. Pause hint, center X. We can replace it. Let's place it in the middle. Yeah, we can place it in the middle. Okay, and then center. Okay, and then let's place it maybe a bit to the top. Yeah, just to show everyone in terms of what we have so far. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is what we have. We have this button here that we created. Maybe we can just adjust the size. Yeah, we can just adjust the size. So instead of putting it in the layout, let's just move it. Yeah, okay, it should be okay now. Yeah, okay, because if you put it in the layout, it will always need to it will automatically adjust to fit the layout. Okay, so as you can see, this is where we have the button now. All right, so of course now we want to create a rounded button. Okay, before I close this, just to take a look, as you can see, the button is a rectangular button, but the button we want to create, it's a rounded button. So what we need to do is we need to do a couple of things. Yeah, so the very first thing that we need to do is use the images, so background normal. So this is the like how the button looks like when it's not pressed. Okay, so in this case what we want to do is we want to use the image, and this is the image we want to use. P up for when the button is up, and P down for when the button is down. Okay, so we're going to put the location to the image here. So where's the image? It's in images. The name of the image is P up PNG. Yeah, okay, and then for when the button now is down, so we're going to say background down, and the image we're going to use here is images. The name of the image pdown.png. Okay, let's go on and run that. All right, yeah, so as you can see, we have the button here. When you press it, as you can see, there are some changes, right? As you can see, there are some changes when you press it, but it looks a bit funny. Yeah, so how you can fix this is by using a border. So you can just go on and use a border. So border. Let's use a border of, so when you look at the image, just before I just implement the changes just now, so when you look at the image, it's stretched a bit more on the X values. All right, so what you want to do is you want to create a border just to fix that. Okay, All right, I won't be explaining much in terms of the border. If you need me to explain this, please do let me know in the comment section. Yeah, so I've created a border. Okay, so let's go on and run this now to see how it looks like. Amazing. Yeah, all right, as you can see, now we have the button. All right, we have the button. As you can see, when it's down, it looks like this, and when it's when it's unpressed, it's like this. Yeah, so that's how you create a rounded button. That's the first way. All right, yeah, so as I mentioned, we're going to be going over 3 ways of how to do this. So now I'm going to show you the other way to go about doing this. Okay, let's just close this. Okay, so the other way of doing this is by using a custom button. So Kivy doesn't have a rounded button per se, but you can create one yourself. All right, so let's go on and create our own button. Okay, so we can import buttons. So from Kivy UX button, import button. All right, and then now we can create a button class around button, and it's a button. Okay, let's pass. Okay, so now what we've done is we've created this new class, this round button class, and it's a button. As you can see, it inherits from a button, so which means this class is technically a button. All right, so we will want to make some adjustments to this, button we have. Yeah, because currently, if we, even though we named it round button, it doesn't mean that now it's going to be a round button. So let's say we put the button here, so round button like this. Let's give it some few things. Okay, and so for this, creating rounded button using custom buttons. Yeah, all right, with Kivy. Yeah, okay, let's put the positioning a bit down, so maybe 6, and let's change the message a bit. Maybe let's say please, so welcome please. So when we run this, okay, as you can now see, we have this button here. Okay, yeah, we have this button here. So the button you just saw now is this round button. So we created this new button. It's a custom button that we create. When it comes to custom buttons, you can name them whatever you want. It's up to you. So in this case, we're calling it round button. All right, so if we want to now make a rounded button, we will need to do some few tweaks to this button, like some few adjustments to the button. So let's go on and edit this button. So we'll create, so we have our button class here in our Kivy file. So the first thing we want to do is we want to adjust the background color. All right, so we want to use our own background color. So what we're going to do is we're going to say background color, and what are we going to do? We're going to disable it. We're going to just, basically we are sort of just to explain, so the first value here, it's your R value, your then it's your B value, and then it's your So RGB, so RGB, so R value, G value, B value, and then the last value here, it's transparency, it's your alpha value. All right, so when you make it 0 here, it means that your background will be transparent. Basically, it will be transparent. Yeah, so it doesn't matter what color you put here, but if it's 0 here, then that means the color will be transparent. Okay, so in this case, by putting a 0 at the end of this background color, we've made it transparent. Yeah, so for you to visualize what I'm talking about, I'm just going to run this code and you can have a look how the button looks like now. As you can see, please, we can see the word please here, but the background color of the button is no longer there. Why? Because we made it transparent by putting a 0 at the end. Okay, but of course we haven't achieved, you know, what we want to create in this case. Yeah, so what we want to do now is we want to give our custom button a custom color, background color. In this case, we're going to use a canvas. So canvas before, all right. And this canvas, we want it to have a particular color, right? RGB, RGBA. Okay, so we want it to have a particular color, all right? And then we also want to paint that color, of course, in a rounded rectangle. Yes, all right. So what do we want to do here? So what we want to do is, instead of using the background color, here we want to create our own background color. All right. Yes, so that's why we have here canvas before and we have the color here. All right, we have a color here. All right, so which means when you want a particular color, let's say you want red, so you're gonna have your color here. So this is a red color. Okay, so you can put your color here, and then here is now the shape of the color. All right, so in this case we want a rounded rectangular color, all right, of the button. Right, so now let's go in and do that. So let's give it a size, of course, self.size, then pause, self.pause. Now take a look how it looks like. Are you ready? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. All right, so as you can see, by default, we have now a rounded rectangle button here. All right, but as you can see, it's much bigger. So of course you can adjust the size. So we can adjust the size. Let's just do that quickly. Let's adjust the size and make it okay. Let's go on and run again. All right, as you can see now, okay, so this is the first button we created through images, and this is how you create a button, a rounded button, using using your custom buttons, with Kivy. All right, but one thing that you might notice with this button is that when you press the button, it doesn't change color. When you press this button, the color changes, but when you press this button, no color changes. Of course, we don't want to have buttons that are like this. So I'm going to show everyone how to change the color of the button when you press it. All right. Yes, so once again, if there's something that is not very clear that you would like me to explain a bit more in future tutorials, please do let me know in the comment section. Yes. All right, so in order to change the color of the button when we press it, we will need to use the Kivy properties. Okay, yeah. So how you use properties? So number one, you need to import them. So from Kivy properties. All right. So Kivy has quite a number of properties, but the one we want to use this time around, we want to use the list property. So that's the property we want to use. We want to use the list property. So this list property, that's where we're going to put the value, the list, as you can see, the color values, they are a list of sorts, right? So we want to put the list values and store them in this list property. All right, and let's let's define our colors, our color name. So btn color, that's the name we're going to be using, and it's going to be stored in property, in the list property. And keep in mind, I've placed this in the round button, in our custom button. All right, so now what we're going to do is, instead of putting the color here, we're going to define the color here. So we'll define the color btn color. All right, so how do we want our color to look like? So it's up to you. Of course, you might have your particular values that you want to use and all of that, but in my case, I've already thought of a color to use. So let me just punch in the values. So the color I have here, let me just put the values quickly. What am I doing? It's 225, 150, 25. Hope I remember well. Okay, so I have placed my color here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is that, so instead of putting the color values here, I would now put self dot btn color. All right, so which means when we run this code, right, the color that is going to show, it's this color here. All right, but what we want to do is we want the color to change when we press. So we're going to put an if statement. So if self state, right, which is the state of the button, normal. All right, so just to explain what this means. So what we're saying now is that if the button state is normal, then this is the color we want, right? If the state is normal, so meaning if the button is normal, it's untouched. All right, of course, if when you're doing this code in your Python file here, you would usually put the if statement a bit differently, but since we're using the Kivy file, we have to put it like this. All right, okay, so if the state is normal, then this is the color. All right, and else, right, so which means when it's pressed or when something happened in the button, we want to have a different color. Yeah, so let's go on and create a different color. Yeah, so let's go in and do some adjustments here. So maybe the different color can be just a brighter version of the same color. Yeah, so let's just times maybe each value by 2 or something. 84 times 2 should be 82 times, no, let me just put whatever. My maths is okay. Yeah, so now we have this. So just to explain once again, yeah, so we have if the state is normal, then this will be the color. So if the state is something else, like the state, is the button is pressed or it's down, then this is going to be the color. All right. Yeah, so let's go on and see how this works. Okay, as you can see, we have our button here, right? And this is the color that's defined here. And the state now currently, it's normal. Yeah, so it's normal. Okay, because nothing has happened to the button. But now when we press, as you can see, the color changes. The color changes when you press. All right. So of course you can change the color, what color you want and everything like that. So it's up to you. You can just play around with these values. So this is the second way how you create a rounded button. Of course, maybe you might want the button to maybe curve a bit more or something like that. So that's where in this, let me just close this. So that's where now you can, because we're using a rounded rectangle shape, right? So one of the parameters is a radius. So we can also use a radius here. And then we can just adjust the radius. Yeah, like for instance, if you want to do it, if you want it to be like a circle, a circular button, you increase the radius. If you want the button to be less round, you decrease the value. So in this case, we just want to make it a bit more, yeah, we just want to round it a bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our radius, maybe of 20. And yeah, usually that works best. Yeah, let's just have a look. Yeah, all right, as you can see, can you see? Yeah, as you can see, we have a nice, yeah, we have a nice rounded button right here, right? And similar to how, you made adjustments, how you made adjustments with the border and stuff like that, you can also make adjustments with the border, just to try and give your rounded button some. Okay, let's just close this. Okay, let me just charge my laptop. It's wanting to. Okay, all right, let's just close that. Okay, let's go on and run that and see how that goes. Yeah, okay, all right, not much changes. Yeah, but yeah, so that's how you go about it, creating a rounded button through creating custom buttons. Once again, you can name these buttons whatever you want. It's your own custom button. All right, so that's the second way you create rounded buttons. All right, so there's also the third way of creating rounded buttons. Yes, so the third way to create rounded buttons is through using KivyMD. MD standing for material design. KivyMD. All right. Yeah, so KivyMD is basically it's basically the same as Kivy. It's just that it's much better in terms of like your widgets and stuff like that. You see, so it has many custom widgets that are already created. Yeah, and it makes it much simpler to use. Like if you look at what we did here, with the second option where to create, custom buttons and all of that, but with KivyMD, these custom buttons are already created for you. It's just a matter of calling them. Of course, you need to be very familiar with KivyMD and stuff like that, so that you can be able to use these buttons. So how do you use KivyMD? So KivyMD, you need to import it similar to how you import Kivy. By the way, this won't work if you haven't installed KivyMD. in your system. So you need to install KivyMD. Yes, so if you have KivyMD installed, then KivyMD app import MD app, like this. All right, so instead of using app here, you'll use MD app. Okay, very, very important. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to use KivyMD, right? So it allows you to use KivyMD and all its custom widgets and everything. All right. Yes, and keep in mind, KivyMD is basically sort of like it's created from Kivy, right? So which means you don't actually even need to import, Kivy twice, because KivyMD is, Kivy with these custom widgets and everything. All right. Yeah. All right. So now that we have Kivy MD imported and everything, now we can go on and create our rounded button. So in KivyMD, there's many different kinds of round buttons, which I will not be touching today. I will not be touching that. If you want me to touch on these KivyMD round buttons, please let me know, but I will not be touching, but I'll just use one example. Here, so in KivyMD, there is a custom button called MD Fill, round flat button. All right, so it's already named. It's an MD Fill round flat button. All right, and what I can do now is that now that I have this button, I can just simply give it like a text. What text can we say? Maybe we can say subscribe. Hope I spelled it right. Subscribe. Yes, so please do subscribe. I have no idea how to spell subscribe anymore. Yeah, so please subscribe and remind me how to spell subscribe. Yeah, so let's go on and run this. Let's run this. All right, as you can see at the bottom, whoa, look at that. At the bottom, we have a nice subscribe button, right? And when you press it, it does everything for you. It changes the color, and not only that, it also has like a nice ripple effect. Look at that. Just two lines. You've created this fancy, super duper, deluxe, amazing button. All right. And of course, you can also do things like positioning the button and all of that. Yeah, I just don't want to, do all of that drama. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the position here. Yeah, and then just place it a bit under the second button. Yeah, so let's go on and run these changes. Let's run these changes. Run. And voila. And that's how you create rounded buttons. All right, so I've showed you 3 ways. Yeah, so of course, there's extra things you can do and stuff like that. Yeah, but this is the 3 different ways you can create rounded buttons. Yeah, in my knowledge, I don't think there's any other way to do this. Yeah, so if you know any other way of creating rounded buttons, please do let me know in the comment section. Until next time, take care, and remember to subscribe.